Hi everybody and welcome to Observing with Webb for May of 2017. This is where the armchair astronomer figures out what they're looking at, why it's so cool, and what they should check out next. Don't forget to check out my Podbean page, mrwebb.podbean.com, or go to Stitcher and search for Observing with Webb, and you can find my podcast there. You can go to my YouTube channel or Twitter feed. Both are Mr. Webb PV. May is looking like kind of boring. I mean, it's a month to get back to basics with 4 visible planets and really not much else, except you can check out 2 dual eclipses on Jupiter, which is pretty neat. So I'm going to start out by looking at, let's see, the sunset sky throughout the month. And what you'll notice is that I have this for May 1st, right around sunset, about 8 p.m. And we'll go a little bit further until it gets a little darker, let's say about 8:45. And you'll still be able to see Mars out there, but it's pretty low on the horizon. So if you're looking west around sunset, the red thing is Mars. Now what's going to happen is throughout the month, let me fast forward through the month, Mars kind of stays in the same spot, but the sun keeps setting later and later, so and then it keeps getting lower and lower as well, so Mars is kind of gone by the end of the month. So, and I'm thinking you won't be able to see that until July, and then that'll be in the morning. So say goodbye to Mars for this month. Okay, okay, so let's go back to May 1st and go back to sunset. But instead of looking in the west, where the sunset was, let's go back to the opposite side. Let's look toward the east. Let's fast forward to about 9 o'clock when it's nice and dark. Now over here, you will see in the southeast, east-southeast, you'll see Jupiter is the bright planet that you can see. You'll also notice that it's near another bright star, which is Spica. And that's a good one to find as well. But Jupiter's up here. Let's see, which one's going to be brighter? Spica is 0.96 and Jupiter is negative 2.4. So Jupiter is much, much brighter than Spica. So the bright point of light in the southeast is Jupiter. And what's going to happen throughout the month is Jupiter is pretty much just going to move with Virgo. That's about it. Jupiter kind of stays in the same spot throughout the month. And if you're looking for Jupiter in the morning, though, you're kind of out of luck because it sets by that point. So if we're following Jupiter over here, okay, Jupiter is going to be in the southeast, and then throughout the night, it's going to move toward the south. And by midnight, it's past the south, toward the south-southwest. And then even on May 2nd, it's going to set in the west at about 4:45 in the morning. Even later in the month, let's say May 31st, my birthday, it's going to set at, well, about 2:30 in the morning. So you got to get out at night to see Jupiter. But Jupiter is going to be really, really cool to see. And there's going to be 2 sort of eclipses, and I'll show you what that is all about later when I talk about the events. Let's see. And then in the morning, all right, so let's take a look here. Let's go to the 1st again, and let's fast forward through the night. And oh, hey, there pops Saturn. There it is. At about midnight in the beginning of the month, Saturn rises in the southeast. So you won't be able to see it until midnight. But then it keeps moving over toward the south, and by morning, Saturn is pretty much in the south. It's as high as it's going to get for right now, which is about 27, 25 degrees above the horizon, which means it's probably going to be a little hard to see since it's low and you're looking through more atmosphere. But the cool thing is that Scorpius and Sagittarius are pretty easy to find in the night sky, even in the morning, and so Saturn will be easy to find up here. So just take a look, and if you have binoculars, you can even check out its rings, which are looking really, really nice right about now. Okay? And yeah, really cool stuff. And if you have a telescope, you can check out lots of really cool Messier objects that are in that area. But I'm not going to talk about them. I'm going to talk to the beginner astronomer here. So let's see. Saturn is up there. Oh, and by the way, yeah, that's about it for Saturn. Now, if you keep looking, oh, look at that. About 4:40 in the morning, Venus starts rising in the east. So if you're looking in the morning, off in the east, you should see a very bright light off kind of near where the sun would be. and that's going to be Venus. Now, Venus is bright and visible, about 20 degrees above the horizon, pretty much all month. Let me show you what I mean. If you go out at 5 a.m., it's going to be just above the horizon, and it rises a little bit throughout the month, but the sun is also rising a little bit later in the month, so it's kind of in the same area. But Venus is going to be super bright. In fact, it's at magnitude -4.2, which, look up the scales, but that's even brighter than Jupiter. So take a look. And the cool thing about this Venus is as well, if I center on Venus and zoom in, if I look at the beginning of the month with my binoculars, I can see sort of a crescent shape. Now, as the month goes by, it gets a little bit smaller and it gets closer to a half phase, okay? And that's because Venus, if I'm Earth and you're the sun, Venus is passing this way around, hopefully that's oriented the right way, around in between me and you, and from my perspective, it is, the left half is being lit up, okay? So anyway, those are all the planets. Now you might be asking yourself, why not Mercury? Well, Mercury is just really not very easy to see right now. As you can see, it's pretty close to the sun. In fact, it's actually not that close. It's just the angle kind of makes it so that it doesn't rise above the horizon all too much. So I wouldn't worry about Mercury at all for this month. Okay, so let's do some events kind of quickly. All right, let's go to sunset and let's go to May 3rd. Let's zoom out and look south, and on May 3rd you'll see that we have the first quarter moon, and then a couple days later, because if you check this out, if you watch the night sky, you'll notice that each night the moon gets a little thicker and thicker, and it's actually moving toward Jupiter. And then on May 7th you will see that the moon and Jupiter are pretty close together, only about 2 degrees apart. And if you have a good wide field lens, you might be able to catch, wide for a telescope. But if you should be able to catch both of them in the same picture. But either way, it might be kind of bright to actually catch Jupiter and the moons, but yeah, it's pretty neat. So if you have trouble finding Jupiter, go out on the 7th. It's right next to the moon. Now, the other thing that's going to happen is on, actually two things. On the 11th of May, let me center on Jupiter and zoom in there. What's going to happen is something pretty darn cool. Now, it's pretty common to see shadows like Europa's shadow here. Here's Europa, and here's the shadow, just because of the angle of the sun and that moon and the planet. Now, because of that, let's move forward in time a little bit. You notice you see Io coming in, but you don't see its shadow yet, and then and right there it pops into view. So on the 11th, if you have a simple telescope, zoom in as far as you can, and between 9:59 and 10:06, you'll be able to see Europa and Io's shadows both on the surface of Jupiter, which is pretty cool. You don't really see it that often. And what you're really seeing is a total solar eclipse. Well, if you were here on Jupiter, you would be seeing a total solar eclipse. And if you could float on top of the atmosphere of Jupiter and see that, you would see a total solar eclipse. But anyway, it's pretty cool. And then what's going to happen is on the 18th of May, you'll see Europa's coming in again, except this time, let's see, let's fast forward time. Okay, so Europa's orbiting around Jupiter, and you see Europa's shadow. Oh, here comes Io. And right about now, starting at about 11:53 p.m., you can actually see both Io and Europa's shadows cross across the face of Jupiter. And now that's only going to last for about an hour. It's from 11:53 to 12:43 Eastern Daylight Time. But again, you can see, let me rewind, you can see those two shadows on the planet, which is really, really neat. All right, so let's back off a little bit from here and all right, let's zoom back out. And last quarter moon is on the 19th, which means, let's see, we got to go all the way to, let's see, about 2:52 in the morning. let's go back to the actual. Oh no, that's the morning of the 19th. That's the last quarter moon, rising at about 3 a.m. And you will be able to see it into the morning. But then let's look at the morning sky toward this part of the month. And remember we said Venus was popping up, right? So if Venus is popping up there and the moon's nearby, you can bet in a couple days the moon will be close. So let's move, nope, not the 20th, not the 21st, the 22nd. The moon and Venus are pretty close. So if you're having trouble finding Venus in general, look on the morning of the 22nd after 4:15 a.m., but before sunrise, because look, 4:15 is when it's just about rising. And then sunrise is when it kind of gets too bright. You can probably still see the moon, but Venus is kind of tough. But in that hour and a half between 4:15 and 5:45, you can find a beautiful thin crescent moon. This is what it would actually look like. A beautiful thin crescent moon with Venus up and to the left of only about 3 degrees. That's 3 pinky widths if you hold them at arm's length. Okay. And then really the only other thing for the month is the new moon, which would be the darkest skies. And that's about it for the month of May. If you have one thing that you want to see, I would say go for the shadows on Jupiter, since you have 2 chances, and they're both about the same time at night. And all you need is a simple telescope able to see the surface of Jupiter, which is any telescope you have for the most part, unless you bought it for $10 on eBay, brand new, and it's made of all plastic. But that might still work as well. All right, so last bit for today. I just want to talk about the constellations. And let's see. Yeah, we're going at 12 minutes. So I'm going to just go to the constellations real quick because they will also help you find Jupiter if you're having trouble there. So let me go to sunset, and let's go May 15th. And let's go to 9:30. That's pretty good. Now, since it's spring, we can start seeing the spring constellations. Now, if you look north, the Big Dipper is pretty easy to find. It's all the way up. It's upside down, very high. These 7 stars are very bright. It's a very good one to see. In fact, now's the best time to look at the whole constellation of Ursa Major, which includes the legs and the body and the head and the other legs of the bear. It's very good because it's high in the sky, and those dimmer stars are easier to see when they're higher in the sky. But the other cool part is that if you look north and also a little bit east, you start seeing this little situation we got right here. There we go. Where you've got the Big Dipper up here. And what you can do, I'm actually not going to zoom in. What you can do is you can take that little arc right there, okay? The arc of the handle, and you can follow that arc to Arcturus. Now, Arcturus is the brightest star in Botes the Shepherd, or the kite, or the ice cream cone. And it's just a good way to find that bright star. But then what you can do is follow the arc to Arcturus, but then speed on to Spica, which is the brightest star in Virgo. I like finding Virgo because to me it looks like the Dickinson Mermaid. Other people it looks like the Fair Maiden, or I don't know, whatever you want to make it, honestly. But right up above it is Jupiter. So if you can find, if you can follow the arc to Arcturus and speed on to Spica, Jupiter's going to be the even brighter star right nearby. Now, because it's also spring, you can see some of these other ones. Corona Borealis. I don't know why it doesn't connect these two to make it be a really good cup formation, but it's there. And then here's another really good one, the Hercules constellation, which has this keystone asterism. This is really neat. If you can find Arcturus, you can find Corona Borealis, the northern crown, and you can find Hercules pretty easily. And if you have binoculars or a telescope, you can start zooming into Hercules and find that Hercules cluster. It's really beautiful in a nice big telescope. It's beautiful in a regular telescope and even just binoculars, but it's one of the easier ones to find because it's bigger and brighter than a lot of them. But there you go. If you're going to go out for constellations, check those out because let's see, if we look west, Gemini and all those winter constellations are pretty much gone. The only other one I would suggest finding is Leo the Lion. It's pretty much up in the southwest. You can see the backward question mark here. Okay? And this is Regulus, which is the brightest star in Leo. And when you're looking for Leo, you've got the backward question mark, or sickle, and it goes back to this right triangle as well. And it's pretty easy to find in the night sky. And if you have telescopes, you can check out these triplets or the Messier objects in there, but there you go. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for the month of May. With that, I'd like to wish you very clear, dark skies for the month of May.